You're welcome to Messiah channel. We are an Iron Time channel. This message is dedicated to false prophets in the last days from Africa to America. I decided to talk about false prophets today, and I'm talking about false prophets over the world. I'm not talking only about America. I'm talking about Africa. In the last days, we have seen a lot of false prophets coming from the African continent, and they are doing damage to the gospel of the kingdom. And one of the reasons why I have been seeing a lot of false prophets is because people believe in miracles. And as a result, a lot of these false prophets perform miracles that are false. And you have to understand that in the last days, the false prophet will do a lot of miracles in front of people. It is these miracles that will lead millions to follow the Antichrist so that they will be cast into the lake of fire. And so nowadays, the false prophets in Africa and other parts of the world, they do a lot of miracles. The miracles are not from God. The miracles are from Satan. And there are places where these false prophets go and get the satanic powers from. And one of those places is in Benin, a country in West Africa. And if you look into history, people in Haiti migrated from Benin, and so these occult powers, some of it found its way to the foreign countries. And that's why you also see that there are a lot of occultic witchcraft practices in Haiti. Is as a result of the origins, the connection between Haiti and Benin being a major center of occult powers. Benin, as I said, is a country in West Africa sharing border with Nigeria. And I will call it the Benin anointing. And there are some people who claim they are anointed, and they have what I call the Benin anointing. If you are in America, you see an African prophet who tells you your telephone number. Oh, I know, I can tell you your telephone number. I can tell you your house address. I can do this. A lot of them are false prophets. They have powers from Benin. They have occult powers. They are not true prophets. Let those false prophets, let them know that you know what a false prophet is. Don't follow the false prophets. These false prophets have titles. We have the Pope. The title, the Pope, is not in the Bible. Archbishop. We know bishops in the Bible, but there's no archbishops in the Bible. We have prophets in the Bible, and the Bible doesn't talk about major prophets and minor prophets. Elijah was a prophet of God. He commanded fire to come from heaven. Amos was a prophet. He was a shepherd. He didn't do the miracle that Elijah did. That doesn't make Amos a minor prophet. Every prophet of God is a prophet of God. And so in Africa nowadays, some of those prophets, they call themselves I am a major prophet. Major prophet A, major prophet B. And they are actually upgrading their titles. They are upgrading their prophetic mantles. You can't just call yourself a prophet unless you were truly called by God. But some people are calling themselves prophets and they are calling themselves major prophets. And some of them even call themselves what they call major apostles. So they are no longer apostles, they are major apostles. There is a prophet in Ghana who even calls himself an angel. He's more than a prophet. He is an angel. These are false prophets. In detecting the false prophets, you also look at their lifestyles. And if you go to the United States, you see those pastors, and you can distinguish between the false ones and the true ones based upon their lifestyles, based upon what they do, their relationship with men, their relationship with women. I'm talking about adultery. I'm talking about weird lifestyles. I'm talking about pastors who are gay pastors. I'm talking about pastors who are lesbian pastors. I'm talking about pastors who are pedophiles. I'm talking about pastors who do all those ungodly sexual things, sexual impurities. I'm talking about pastors who believe in the mansions that they live in. I'm talking about pastors with expensive watches. I'm talking about pastors who have 4, 5 limousine cars. I'm talking about pastors who believe in worldly and material things. I'm talking about the pastors who have not crucified their eyes, and they are not following what Paul said, that crucify your body and make it as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to the Lord. When you see a pastor like that, then the pastor is a false prophet, a false pastor, whether he's in Africa or whether he is in America. And when you're talking about false prophets, also use Deuteronomy chapter 18 verse 22, those who predict heaven and earth, but nothing comes true. And those who are prophets of presidents, they prophesy for presidents in America because they want presidential favors. So they prophesy for people in the name of God, even though God didn't tell them anything. So as I'm talking about false prophets, I'm talking about the Trump prophets in America who falsely predicted that Trump will win election 2020 based upon what God told them, and God didn't tell them anything like that. I'm still talking about false prophets in Africa, false prophets in America, and I'm talking about prophets who are preaching doctrines of demons. And I refer you to 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 1. And in the last days, people will talk about prosperity. They will talk about they will teach the doctrines of demons. Once saved, always saved. When you see a prophet preaching about prosperity, then he's not preaching the message of John the Baptist, the message of repentance. That person is a false prophet. If you see a prophet who is prophesying with fear, he's not bold, he's a lukewarm prophet or apostle, then I call him a Laodicean pastor. A Laodicean apostle is neither hot, is neither cold, is lukewarm. He is a false prophet. You have to remember our brother John the Baptist. John sealed his testimony with his blood. He spoke boldly in the wilderness, and his head was taken off. He was beheaded. Stephen also spoke the truth to the point of martyrdom. He was killed. And the two witnesses of the Lord who appear in chapter 11 of the book of Revelation, they will preach the true gospel of the Messiah, and in the end, they will seal their testimony with their blood, because the Antichrist will kill them, but they will not budge. They will preach the gospel of repentance and the gospel of eternal salvation. As I'm talking about false prophets and pastors in Africa and America, I'm talking about the so-called mega churches. They have a mega church mentality. They believe in numbers. So when I'm talking about the false prophets, I want you to know that salvation is not about numbers. A channel that is good or bad doesn't depend upon the number of subscribers, because the gospel is very clear. There is a wide road that leads to destruction, and many are those who find it. And there is a narrow gate that leads to salvation, and few are those who found it. And so, as I'm talking about false prophets in Africa and in America, I'm not talking about those who have large numbers to be called the apostles of God. I'm talking about those who are on the narrow road that leads to salvation. And so this checklist will help you to determine who is a false prophet, so that you will be able to discern the end of days and tell yourself whether you are on the narrow gate that leads to salvation, or you are on the wide gate, the wide road, following the false prophets in Africa and America, taking you to the lake of fire. Thank you for this message.